to the Life and Listings podcast. I have the amazing Diana here joining us. How are you doing today?
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, for people that are listening in that have not had the pleasure of meeting you yet, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing, where you're at.
So my name's Diana Zaya. I'm the founder of Maverick Systems. We are a data analytics company in the real estate industry. We're helping real estate brokerages grow. We do that by supplying them in-depth insights to help with targeted agent retention, coaching agents to higher production, as well as providing analytics around mergers and acquisitions. And so my background hasn't always been in data, although previously I for a company that was also supplying data insights as well as AI-powered insights. Tremendous fortune of working with some of the largest real estate companies across the nation. That was a really cool experience because I got to sort of pull back the curtain and see how real estate companies, large, small, mid-sized, were approaching their growth initiatives. And found is a lot of them were sort of challenged by the same things, all these common threads. And I ended up taking that experience to create Maverick Systems as a company that didn't just supply insights, but went a step beyond that to help leaders actually interpret that data and put it into action.
I love that because I dig into that a little bit today about why it doesn't need to be scary or overwhelming, right? Because there's so much information out there about our clients and their searches and agents and all of that. So tell me a little bit about you interpreting that or helping these leaders interpret some of this information that you have.
Part of my background is, I come also from a sales and marketing background, and others will appreciate this. But when you're approaching someone, and let me just back up for a moment, I look at agent recruitment and retention as a sales and marketing function. And I believe agents are the customer of the brokerage, just like home buyers and sellers are. And so we need to be able to approach them in a way that resonates with them when we are looking to bring agents to the brokerage. And so my whole thing with data was, how can I use the information I have on the agent to actually put them into categories or like create personas on these agents, and then use that information or use that persona to shape the way that I approach them. I think it's like a secret nowadays. Most real estate companies, I think, do a really great job at providing services or trainings or culture for their agents. Not every agent cares about everything that brokerage provides. Mm-hmm. And so if I can look at the data about an agent to determine what I think is going to be the most important, then when I do approach them, I can talk about the things that our firm does really, really well that I know are going to resonate with that person.
Yeah. I love what you said earlier about you want the recruitment and retention, right? That's also important. And I think something that a lot of us don't think about to be a marketing and sales function, which is, it should be, right? It should be a separate hub within your business and you're treating it like you do client database. It's the same thing. So tell me a little bit, because I'm really interested in how you're using data for the retention piece. Tell me a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So we help our clients, we actually coach our clients parse through the data and segment out their own agent pool. So we supply our clients over 70 data points on every agent, whether it's somebody in their market or somebody in their brokerage. So one example is we can look internally to see very specific markers within the transactional record that'll identify to me a group of agents that looks like they will likely not make it or they may end up leaving the business if there's not some intervention by their broker. And so we say, here's a group of agents that I would really focus on helping them get organized, helping them learn how to work their sphere of influence, essentially uncover leads on high quality and sort of nurture those along so that they can do a little bit of production. And identify agents internally that are struggling with the way that they handle their listings, whether it's, like they're having a lot of listings that are canceling or they're lingering on and suffering price drops over time. So we can say, okay, well, this person is taking listings, but how are they handling them? Is it a marketing issue? Is it a pricing issue? And start to point to areas where that broker can take action.
Love that. So you're really pinpointing trainable opportunities. So you can say, hey, this group of agents, why don't you put together a marketing training for listings? Or why don't you put together a pricing training? So you can kind of group those together. And then are you using some of that same data on the recruitment side? So are you saying, hey, these agents might need some training on marketing, and that would be your messaging?
Yeah, absolutely. So likewise on the recruiting side, we're supplying over 70 data points. And honestly, Jennifer, data is never the issue. Brokers have access to so much data nowadays.
Yeah.
It's how to put it together. So
Yep.
exactly this conversation that you and I are having right now are the types of things that most brokers struggle with. But I'll be honest with you, it's not just restricted to real estate. I want to share a really interesting study that I uncovered recently. It was by Oracle and it's called the Decision Dilemma for anyone that wants to look it up. And it was a study done about a year ago of over 14,000 employees across 17 countries, across different industries. What we're finding is that 74% of people said that the decisions that they have to make every day have increased by 10 times over the last 3 years. And that 78% of them are getting bombarded with more data than ever. So think about that. We've got more decisions that we're making on a daily basis. We have more data than we've ever had. In fact, they said 70% of respondents said that they had given up on making a decision because the data was so overwhelming.
Wow.
And another 85, this one really surprised me. Another 85% said that the inability to make decisions due to the vast amount of data that was available actually was negatively impacting their lives and causing them tremendous spikes in anxiety, opportunities. And what got me most was unnecessary spending on solutions that listening to help, whether it's a data solution or an AI solution, but it's actually causing people more anxiety.
Wow. And I mean, over the last 3 years, so where do we think that this is like a COVID thing, post pandemic type of thing, or where did this extra data come from? Is it AI that's affecting it? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it could be, right? Because if you even think of AI solutions that are available, I would say probably all of us are using some form of AI, even if it's just Chat GPT. And, for me personally, there's AI that I have absolutely loved and has enhanced my life. And there are some AI solutions that have really caused me to waste a lot of time and money, where I felt like it was on the promises that it had made, or the platform was really hard to use, or it was clunky. So sorting through that and trying to figure out what is going to work and what isn't, I think is a huge challenge for a lot of people. Other thing is, over the last decade, 2 decades, we're producing just as a global community, we're producing so much more data than we were 20 years ago. There's just more data availability. The cost of storing the data has come down, so we can actually store more. And the types of technologies to be able to store and use data has accelerated. So we're at a place now where we have tons of data, we can store it, we can use it, and we're feeling overwhelmed by it.
Don't even know how to interpret it or what's right and what's wrong and what it means.
So that was really important to me. And that's why when launched Maverick, it was really important to me to have not just a platform or a product, but to have the company to take a very consultative approach with our clients to ensure their success.
Yeah. So they're not overwhelmed by all of these other data points, because you said 70 data points, correct?
Yes.
More data, you can use it, and you're really helping interpret it. So
yeah, and we want to get really strategic with our clients too. So like when I look at a brokerage, for example, I want to see, what segment of your agent pool or what percentage of your agent pool is going to retire in the next 5 years. 80% of your agents in business over 15 years, that's an indicator that you have an aging agent population. And so we may think about recruiting people that are maybe a little bit newer to the business. And then how can we use the data to identify the newer agents that are actually on their way up and have higher success probabilities?
Of that. So we're at retention, we're looking at recruiting, but then you're also giving them information on their existing agents to kind of help them for future business growth. So you're all of a sudden a brokerage doesn't come up on everybody just retired. Now I have no agents left.
Exactly. Or, what price point do most of them work in? Or what, even something as simple as like, what percentage of your brokerage hasn't transacted in 6 months?
Yeah.
And it's surprisingly high for most.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think a lot of companies are looking at, well, I'm making money, right? Now a couple of high producers, something like that. But you're helping them pinpoint maybe some gaps in their business to where they could provide some training or some support or just add to the business plan. Are you doing all this one coaching, or is it easy for them to interpret in the system?
Both. It really is a combination of both. Because we take a consultative approach, there is quite a bit of one-on-one with our clients, but we're also setting up their platform in a way where the machine can do a lot of the heavy lifting as well and interpret some of the data and then deliver that insight to them. So it really is to work hand in hand for them to be successful.
Yeah. Kind of going back to what you're saying about people being overwhelmed by data, what would you tell the average person, everything they have in front of them, when they make decisions? How can they feel less overwhelmed by the decisions in front of them?
There's a lot of noise in the market. So you're going to have a lot of solutions out there that are going to promise, do this or that. I think if it were me, and where I typically will start is I'll sit and think about the problem or the opportunity ahead of me. And I'll really get alone with my thoughts, away from the commercials and the salespeople that are telling you that solution's going to work. But really get alone and start to ask yourself, like, what do I really want to know? Start with the question, like, what is it that I want to know? And how would that information inform the decision I'm going to make? Or to make a decision on what market I want to grow to, for example.
Yeah.
I want to know what insight am I personally lacking that I can then go and look for the data. But if we start with a platform that's really data rich and you just go in and start exploring it, you're likely going to feel very overwhelmed. Rather, start with the problem or the question that you have and then seek out the data to answer that question.
That one specific thing that I need for whatever my issue is. I think that's really important. And it's a big takeaway in any aspect of someone's life. But I think it's a big thing in the real estate industry because there can be so many bright, shiny objects and different tools and tech. And every time we go to a conference, there's like 25 new tools, or they're telling us about 30 different new AI things we need to try. And everyone's like, I need to go sign up for all of them and try them all. But that's a good tip. What are you trying to get out of it, and start there?
I'd mentioned to you sort of when we talked offline, you're also part of the parent-teacher action committee at my son's high school. Our high school is almost 4,000 students. And so there's a lot to manage. And part of what we were doing is, as parents, we were working with teachers, administrators, our superintendent was heavily involved, to use the data that the school had to make better decisions about serving our students and our kids and address common problems. And so what we did, it was a series of meetings. And what we did is we met and put the problems in front of us. And we all determined that there were these couple of issues that were the biggest problems that our school was facing. And then it was easy from that point to start to ask the questions. And so it was just like a brainstorming session where we're like, okay, we know that vaping is a problem in most U.S. high schools, and it's certainly a problem in our school. And so we said, okay, well, this is a problem we're going to try to address with data. And the parents started asking questions like, okay, well, where does it happen? What time does it happen? Does it happen one day over another day of the week? Is there a segment of the student body that is more likely to participate? For example, what extracurriculars are they involved in? Is it really our athletic kids? We were able to uncover the answers. We could allocate resources to that area of the school, or we can talk with our athletic directors and bring them into the issue and start having those conversations. And honestly, it's been a tremendous benefit to our school because our administrators were so heavily involved and they're so data driven that it's actually starting to solve some of the problems that we had, and incidents have gone down and all of that. So
I love that, because you're not just pulling in all the data you have on everything and getting overwhelmed, right? Like, oh, well, then you start going down these rabbit holes of, well, this is another issue and this is another. No, this is what we're working on at hand. Let's solve this thing. Let's pull the data in for this specific issue and move on.
Yeah, and you start to ask questions. And the other thing is, honestly, you just start to become data driven. And most people become data driven professionally before they do it personally. But it has like resounding effects throughout your life, reverberate into other areas of your life. And so, not to get too into detail, but I grew up in a household where we were not very logical people. We were very emotional. Parents were high emotion, very reactive, and so that's how the kids grew up. I grew up in a great home, but we were just spicy. And I think over time, it can start to harm you in some ways where you're more reactive. And becoming a data-driven person professionally has actually made me a data-driven person personally. And so I find that I get better outcomes in my personal life when I approach it with that sort of mindset.
Yeah, I love it. This is giving me some insight on like some of my decision making too, right? Like specific. I want to pivot a little bit before we wrap up. And I wanted to ask you, Diana, what is your superpower?
And I know this is not like a super fun, but my superpower is my intuition, instincts. I have always followed my intuition. And, I think sometimes that can get people into trouble because we just talk about like not following emotions, but using a data-driven approach and a logical approach. But at the same time, that's what makes us human, is having intuition. And real estate industry, I feel like real estate people have tremendous intuition and tremendous gut instincts, and we're like people.
Yeah.
So I always say, like, how powerful is it though when you can combine the way that you naturally are, like, are intuitive, or you have these really great soft skills where you're very personal and empathic, combine that with technology and with data, because together it really is such an unstoppable combination.
Yeah, and then you can just, I feel like you could almost wholeheartedly make a decision, right? You're like, I have the data, I feel good about it, I'm going for it. Is that part of what made you start Maverick? Did you have a gut feeling that this was going to be something amazing?
I had the strongest gut feeling going for it. Well, it's a combination of everything. It was like just being an entrepreneur at heart, and then having the experience with all these real estate companies and really seeing an opportunity to do something that I love and to serve the people in our industry, which I love this industry. I love that it's an industry of entrepreneurs. I want to support that. And so I'm working with my clients to help support their business.
It's been a great conversation. So if anyone's listening and they want to get in contact with you, if they want to learn more about Maverick, or if they just want to follow you somewhere, where's the best place to send them?
Our website at mavericksystems.com. That's plural. Certainly check out our LinkedIn page. Connect with me on any social media platform. LinkedIn is my preferred, but you'll find me on all of them.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been just so great chatting and some good insights on data.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's so much fun to chat with you.
Have a good day.
Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.